हाँ? नाम लाल था लेकिन
Okay, so people can mute their mics, please. Other than Samir Bera, please mute. Samir Bera, please mute. Yeah. So today is actually the this year's first eclipse, right? I mean solar eclipse, but not visible from India. Um and I think there are going to be four eclipses in this year, two solar, two lunar, and none of them are going to be visible from India. That's something surprising, interesting, whatever that you want to call. But however, our news media are working overtime to even milk these solar eclipses to spread superstition. I'm sure people have their own culture, views. We have all respect for that. That's not the issue. But in 21st century, when even in olden times, when the astronomers knew the real cause of eclipses, and they have written extensively against this superstitious belief, claiming that this is our tradition is hilarious. Not only hilarious, I think ludicrous, appalling. Lalacharya, one astronomer who lived around 600, 800 CE, wrote a book for students who want to learn astronomy. This was 1,000 years ago, right? Almost 1,200 years ago, 1,400 years ago. In that book, he had a special chapter, one whole chapter. Okay, so this is a book for students who want to learn astronomy, Siddhantic astronomy of those time. And then that book had one whole chapter, which is called errors, common errors. So essentially, Lalacharya was talking about what were all the myths connected with astronomy that is floating around, and he was posing such a myths in those chapters. And one of that myth is Rahu or Ketu is the cause of eclipse. In fact, he says if Rahu is the cause of solar eclipse, okay, let's say that it's a cause of solar eclipse. Let's assume that this mobile is a Apple. Okay, it's not Apple, just an ordinary mobile. Okay, it's not even Apple mobile, and I'm going to bite it. All of you can see that one portion of this mobile is invisible to you, right? Because I'm biting it. So if there is one Rahu and this is sun, and the Rahu is biting the sun, one portion of the sun should not be visible for anyone in the world, right? But that's not the case. For example, just now, if you are in Antarctica, part of the sun would be covered. There'll be eclipse if you are in Antarctica. But if you are in rest of the world, sun is not covered. It is shining bright. So quite obviously, it's not as if that sun bitten by Rahu will be seen only from Australia. That's not possible, no. So Lalacharya writes this when 1,200 years ago. But our people are still talking about Rahu and Ketu and claiming that that's our tradition. That's what we should respect. Come on, yaar. So there were people who were scientifically tempered 1,200 years ago. And there were people who were unscientifically tempered 1,200 years ago. Who is your tradition? Who is my tradition? So there were both scientific tradition and unscientific tradition in the past. Quite clear. If Lalacharya is writing all this, one whole chapter on errors like this, quite obviously there were people who are believing that. Quite obviously, Lalacharya is opposed to that. So there were two parties 1,200 years ago, like Aryabhata, like Lalacharya. They were not accepting that the cause of eclipses or anything to do with Rahu and Ketu. Even today, one newspaper in its digital edition has talked about such superstition. This is really very appalling. And we want to become 21st century. We want to become leaders of the world. No, with this kind of attitude, we are not going to become any of those things. Forget about nation becoming. People are going to be put into more and more misery if all of us start believing such irrational, unscientific stuff. Even
Yes, sir.
1200 years ago, scholars like Aryabhata spoke against such blind beliefs, right? So there is a tradition of speaking truth. Was a tradition of speaking scientific temper. That tradition is what we want to uphold, and that is what All India People Science Movement is upholding. And I'm so glad that as part of Astronomy Day celebration, accidentally it has happened that today we are having this lecture, which also happens to be the first eclipse of this year, 2026. And I'm also so glad that Dr. Priya Hassan from Maulana Azad University, Maulana Azad Urdu University in Hyderabad, has joined us as expert to talk about a very important, very exciting topic. So, few words, my opinion on this topic. We all know that one fine day in year 1456 AD, Galileo famously turned the telescope toward the sky, and then that changed the way we look at the universe, the way we look at our place in the universe. Our ideas of cosmos completely got modified, right? So we were able to see mountains and craters on Moon. We were able to see satellites going around Jupiter. We were able to see stars which were invisible to our naked eye. We saw that the cosmos was much bigger than what we had known at that time. Just that simple telescope, which is equivalent to a kind of a toy telescope. You go to a good toy shop, you will get a telescope which is more powerful than what Galileo used for doing his studies. Today, we are entering into a very new era where really big telescopes which are in degree substantially powerful, like James Webb Space Telescope. A 30-meter telescope is under construction. There are some radio telescopes which are under development. You can also say, for example, today we are also looking at the gravitational wave. So even the LIGO, the gravitational wave observatory, is a kind of a telescope. So we are entering into a new era where, just like Galileo was able to see certain unknown portions of universe that changed the way we looked at the cosmos, we are going to certainly see a new picture of cosmos, which is going to shake the fundamental notions about what is cosmos, what is universe, how did it originate, what is happening in it. Our ideas are going to see a big change. That's for sure. What change? We don't know, because only after you observe, you'll be able to know what is out there. And from that, we can come to certain ideas about our cosmos, which are going to be deeper. So we are taking, in a sense, we can say that we are making baby steps towards a revolution that is in the making. So we are actually living in the time of a revolution that is occurring around us in terms of our understanding of cosmos. And that's the topic of today's lecture as part of Astronomy Day, organized by All India People Science Network and Bharat Gyan Vigyan Samiti. I thank the organizers for arranging such a very wonderful program. Welcome all participants. Uh, इस दो शब्द से मैं इधर खत्म करके स्पीकर के पास दे रहा हूँ, बट मे बी दो तीन शब्द मेरा टूटा फूटा हिंदी में बोल देंगे। आज का विषय है टेलीस्कोप की दूरबीन के बारे में। गैलीलियो लगभग, सॉरी मिस्टर सुदेश, या लगभग 600-700 ईयर्स पे गैलीलियो पहली बार दूरबीन को यूज किया कॉस्मोस के ऊपर, दैट इज ए ब्रह्मांड के ऊपर हमारा नजरिया बदल गया। अभी एक नया तरीके से टेलीस्कोप आ रहा है, उसका क्षमता बहुत शार्प है, बहुत शक्तिशाली है। इस टेलीस्कोप के साथ हमारा नजरिया बदलने का एक प्रोसेस में है। इस तरह से एक रेवोल्यूशन, क्रांतिकारी टाइम में हम हैं। इसके बारे में आज का स्पीकर हमारे पास बात करेगा। सो आई वेलकम डॉक्टर प्रिया हसन। We are all very eagerly waiting for your talk. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Shukriya, Dr. Venkateshwaran Sahab. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you about a very important topic. जैसे बताया गया आपको कि एस्ट्रोनॉमी जो है ये बेसिकली टेक्नोलॉजी ड्रिवन है। तो ये साइंस जैसे हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी सुधर रही है, हमारे जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है, हमारा बेसिक इंस्ट्रूमेंट है दूरबीन, टेलीस्कोप, और जैसे हमारी क्षमता और बढ़ रही है, हम लोग बेहतर टेलीस्कोप से देख सकते हैं, जिसके वजह से एस्ट्रोनॉमी में बहुत सारे चेंजेस आ रहे हैं। और अभी ये ही वेरी सून एक बड़ा रेवोल्यूशन आ रहा है एस्ट्रोनॉमी इन टर्म्स ऑफ टेलीस्कोप साइजेस। ये एक न्यू कैटेगरी ऑफ टेलीस्कोप्स है जो 30 मीटर क्लास टेलीस्कोप्स है, 20-30 मीटर, जो पहली बार इस्तेमाल होने वाले हैं। और आप लोग देखेंगे कि किस तरह से इसके वजह से बहुत बड़े चेंजेस आने वाले हैं हमारे एस्ट्रोनॉमी में। ठीक है, तो आई विल स्टार्ट विथ माय फर्स्ट स्लाइड। तो जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, दिस टॉक इज अबाउट द एरा ऑफ एक्सट्रीमली लार्ज टेलीस्कोप्स। And I will अभी से कह देती हूँ कि this is specifically about optical telescopes, because if we know that we have telescopes in astronomy in all wavelengths, from X-ray to gamma rays to all wavelengths, radio, and each of them will take a separate talk, and that's why today I'm going to talk specifically about optical telescopes. ठीक है, क्योंकि बाकी के बारे में बताने के लिए मुझे और वक्त की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। ठीक है, so today we are going to basically focus upon optical telescopes and these very 3 big telescopes. This is it's very surprising that astronomers have been very unimaginative in the names they've given for telescopes. For example, this telescope is called the TMT, और TMT का मतलब है 30 meter telescope. Okay, this telescope is called the ELT, which means the extremely large telescope. Okay, and this one is the GMT, the Giant Magellan Telescope. ठीक है, तो we have been this thing. तो first of all, let us try to I would like to the first this thing just talk about today's day. हम लोग सोचते हैं कि बस यही समय में डॉक्टर वेंकटेश्वरन बात कर रहे थे कि किस तरह से टुडे इज अ सोलर एक्लिप्स. And even I was called by NDTV to talk, and the problem was that there were 4 astrologers and me, 1 astronomer, talking on the channel about the eclipse, while all the astrologers were talking about, you know, all the restrictions of the eclipse. Only I was the one who was saying there's nothing. And so this fight has always been there. This fight about science, about reason, about about free thought, right? तो ये जो हमेशा रहा है लोगों के बीच में. And we today, specifically 17th February, we are commemorating the death of Giordano Bruno. Or he was actually a person who was ahead of his times, in the sense he proposed, he was for the heliocentric theory. He proposed that stars were distant suns surrounded by their planets. He insisted that the universe is infinite, could have no center. And like I said, he was ahead of his times. And therefore there was a case, there was inquisition, a 7-year-old trial, which was done against him. And after that, it was after the trial, they came to the conclusion that he has to be executed, and he was actually burnt alive in this place. यही जगह है जहाँ पे उनको जलाया गया, जहाँ पे उनका स्टैच्यू बनाया गया, और ये इस वजह से हुआ कि उन्होंने कई चीज़ों के बारे में बात की जो लोगों को पसंद नहीं आए। फॉर एग्जाम्पल उन्होंने ये भी बात की कि सूरज के जैसे कई और तारे हैं जिसके अराउंड प्लैनेट्स हो सकते हैं, जिसमें लाइफ हो सकता है। सिमिलर यूनिवर्स जो है इनफाइनाइट है एंड कोई सेंटर नहीं है। और इस तरह से इन्होंने जो ये चीज़ें की, people did not like it, and this is an example of a person who's so many years ago was a martyr for free thought. और ये नहीं कि अभी ये जंग खत्म हो गई है, even now we have people who are fighting for free thought, and it's an important thing to be done. So very briefly, I will talk about the history of telescope apertures, because in astronomy, our basic instrument is a telescope. तो जैसे जैसे दूरबीन हमारे पास बड़े बड़े बनते गए, हमारे पास एस्ट्रोनॉमी का बढ़ावा, यानी कि डेवलपमेंट ऑफ एस्ट्रोनॉमी took place. So if you see that we start off with Galileo, who first started with बहुत छोटा टेलीस्कोप, it's a 1.5 inch telescope, बहुत छोटा टेलीस्कोप, जो which you even today in a toy shop you can go and buy such a small telescope. This is the one which he started off with. And then you had an increase in sizes. You had Huygens who had a 5 inch. And then ये सब lenses के साथ था. This was all with lenses, and people started building bigger and bigger lenses. Okay, and the largest refractor, these are telescopes with lenses, is the Yerkes refractor. This was under the University of Chicago. और इसके बाद लोगों को obviously lens बनाने में मुश्किल हो रही थी. Basically because there's a problem with lenses. Lenses are heavy, and they also give you what is called chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration basically means that because the refractive index of the lens depends upon the wavelength of light, so the focal point for all colors will be at different points. And therefore, if I use a lens to look at white light, the focus for different colors will come on different points, due to which I will get a blurry image. तो lenses के साथ ये problem था कि हमारा जो इमेज है उसमें क्रोमैटिक एबरेशन होता था, यानी कि आपको रंग, अलग अलग रंग जो है अलग पॉइंट्स पे फोकस होता है. और उसके अलावा जो लेंस होता है वो कांच का है, भारी होता है, और वो सैग कर सकता है टाइम के साथ, उसमें प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. So people realize that from refractors we have to move to reflectors. So refractors basically use lenses, but reflectors में mirrors का इस्तेमाल होता है. And one of the biggest telescope is the Hooker telescope, 2.5. This is the 2.5 meter telescope. ये telescope है जिससे साथ Edwin Hubble ने अपने major discoveries किए. After that we had the Hale telescope. This is the Palomar telescope, the 5 meter telescope. And this telescope was the largest for 45 years. Okay, कई सालों के लिए ये सबसे बड़ा टेलीस्कोप रहा दुनिया में. 5 मीटर का टेलीस्कोप है. ये माउंट पालोमार में है, द हेल टेलीस्कोप. अब सोवियत यूनियन में बना BTA, बल्शोय अज़ुमतालनी टेलीस्कोप, विच इज अ 6 मीटर टेलीस्कोप. ये 6 मीटर टेलीस्कोप बना था, ये रशिया में. यस, हेलो, यस. So उसके बाद this was the 5 meter telescope, after which people thought that we had reached the maximum size of which we can make a mirror, right, a 5 meter mirror. And therefore then a new thing came up of what we called segmented mirrors. That means you make a mirror which is made up of pieces, segments. Okay, तो ये जो बड़े टेलीस्कोप्स बनाने के लिए सिंगल कांच के साथ बनाना मुश्किल था, तो एक बड़ा वाला पीस लेके उसमें छोटे छोटे पीसेस में आप बना सकते हैं सेगमेंट्स. तो फॉर एग्जांपल द केक टेलीस्कोप इज अ 10 meter telescope. It's made up of 2 telescopes, so it does optical interferometry. This has 36 segments, so 36 pieces are there which together get packed to give you one big mirror. Okay, so this was the Keck telescope. Then we had the very large telescope, the VLT, which is 8.2 meter. Then you had 10.4 meter Grand Telescope of Canary and Hobble-Eberly telescope. तो उसके बाद लोगों को लगा कि एक सिंगल कांच का मिरर बनाना मुश्किल है. ओके, बियॉन्ड 6 meter 10 meter उसके बड़ा बनाना है तो आपको फिर उसको टुकड़ों में बनाना है, right? And therefore we see that अब the telescopes which are in construction, about which we are going to talk today, these are all telescopes made up of segments or pieces. So basically the three telescopes, the Giant Magellan Telescope, GMT, which is 25.4 meters, the 30-meter telescope, which is 30 meters, and the European Extremely Large Telescope, which is 39 meters, okay? So these are the three ones we are basically going to talk about today. अब प्रश्न आता है कि हमको बड़ा दूरबीन क्यों चाहिए? ऑब्वियसली जितना बड़ा आपका दूरबीन है, जितना बड़ा आपका टेलीस्कोप है, उतना बड़ा आपको बकेट यानी इतने ज़्यादा आप फोटॉन्स कलेक्ट करेंगे. सो अ लार्ज टेलीस्कोप बेसिकली मीन्स अ लार्जर फोटॉन कलेक्टिंग एरिया, right? And if you collect photons, you can see fainter objects. आप जितने ज़्यादा photons को पकड़ेंगे क्योंकि आपका diameter बड़ा है, आप fainter चीज़ों को देख सकेंगे. And the other important thing about a telescope is what is called resolution. Resolution is the capacity to see detail. Okay, so resolution is given by 1.22 lambda. Lambda is the wavelength in which we are observing, divided by diameter. So as we increase the diameter, we can improve our resolution. ठीक है, तो टेलीस्कोप ये बेसिकली ये दो फायदे हैं. एक है कि आपके पास बड़ा बड़ा लेंस या मिरर रहा तो आप फेंटर सोर्सेस को पकड़ेंगे, और दूसरी ये चीज़ है कि आपका रेजोल्यूशन जो है वो बढ़ेगा. ओके, एक प्रॉब्लम होता है कि जैसे आप टेलीस्कोप को बढ़ाता है तो आपका फील्ड ऑफ व्यू, ओके, फील्ड ऑफ व्यू जो आप देखते हैं वो छोटा हो जाता है. ओके, एंड इसीलिए आपको फील्ड ऑफ व्यू के साथ फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आप टेलीस्कोप से आपको अकॉर्डिंगली आपका फील्ड ऑफ व्यू चेंज करना रहेगा. अच्छा, एक रीसेंट पेपर आजकल में ही आया है जिसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरह से पेपर्स जो होते हैं डिपेंड अपॉन द साइज ऑफ द टेलीस्कोप, राइट? So you can see that the maximum papers that were published last year, maximum was on James Webb Telescope, which is a space telescope, but this is 6.4 meters, okay? After that comes Gaia, which is a space telescope again, Hubble. This is ALMA, which is a ground-based one. SDSS is 2.5 meters. This is a ground-based telescope, and then these are the telescopes. So you can see that obviously these are space telescopes, and then the larger the ground-based telescope, they're this thing. But it's not always that big is better. It also obviously depends upon the kind of science you are doing. कभी-कभी होता है कि छोटे टेलीस्कोप के साथ भी आप अच्छा साइंस कर सकते हैं डिपेंडिंग अपॉन आप किस तरह से. ठीक है, तो आप अकॉर्डिंगली डिपेंडिंग अपॉन दिस थिंग. ठीक है, तो जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, द अदर इम्पॉर्टेंट एडवांटेज ऑफ अ टेलीस्कोप इज रेजोल्यूशन, राइट? रेजोल्यूशन देखिए, ये नीचे जो आप व्हाट यू कैन सी, ये है एक इमेज फॉर एग्जांपल विच इज बैडली रिजॉल्व. ये हबल का इमेज है, हबल टेलीस्कोप जो 2.4 meters है, and this is with James Webb, this is 6.5 meters. So you can see that this James Webb telescope image is better resolved. What do I mean by resolution? You can see these stars, you can see these individual stars, you can see structure, you can see much more things on this image than you can see this. So you can see detail, right? For example, if I had two stars over here, I can, if it's unresolved, they will look like one star. But if I resolve it, I can say they are two different stars, right? तो ये फर्क होता है कि जब आप बड़ा टेलीस्कोप यूज करते हैं तो हमारा रेजोल्यूशन जो है बेहतर होता है. तो इफ वी वांट टू इंप्रूव द रेजोल्यूशन, व्हाट वी कैन डू? वन इज दिस लैम्डा शुड बी स्मॉल, right? That means I observe in shorter wavelengths. But for example, if I'm looking in optical wavelengths, I have a fixed lambda in which I'm observing, right? So this also depends upon the wavelength in which I'm observing. So I do not have too much control over this. All that I can do is I can look at shorter wavelengths. The other thing I can do is I can look for good quality optics, adaptive optics, and obviously I can increase my D. जितना मैं D को बढ़ाऊंगी उतना मेरा रेजोल्यूशन बेहतर हो जाएगा. Okay, so I can improve resolution by increasing the value of D, which is what I told you is the advantage of having a big telescope. Number one, I collect more photons. Number two, I get resolution. Resolution gives me the power to look like this. ये जो आप देख रहे हैं ये दोनों तस्वीरों में, ये हबल का है, ये जेम्स वेब का है. आप देख सकते हैं कि जेम्स वेब में हम लोग बहुत बेहतर इसको देख सकते हैं. We can see it much better. So here this is an older paper which is from 2006. ये वाले में this is without James Webb, but here you can see that, for example, Sloan Digital Survey SDSS, ये छोटा telescope है 2.5 meters, but in 2006 SDSS had the maximum citations for that year for 2006. Then comes Hubble, and the Keck telescope, which is 10 meter, came later. So sometimes it does happen that quality of science, जिस किस्म का साइंस आप करते हैं, वो छोटे टेलीस्कोप से भी अच्छा हो सकता है, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन आप किस तरह से उसको इस्तेमाल करते हैं. लेकिन बड़े टेलीस्कोप का ऑब्वियसली फायदा होता है. So if you look at here, there's a plot of overall aperture size. You can see जब शुरू किया, when Galileo started 1609, you can see this is the size of the telescope in inches, 1.5 inches. And then you can see that gradually the size of the telescope increase, right? So here you have already, you're coming to 50 and you're coming to 100 inches, and you're increasing the size and you come here. So if you actually put a fit, you will see that the size doubles every 40-50 years. The size of the telescope often doubles. ये plot के हिसाब से 30-meter telescope should come only around 2016, okay, which is much later, but hopefully it will come before that. उसके पहले आ जाएगा 30-meter telescope. Okay, this is the same plot, just showing you the aperture. So in this plot, इसमें आप देख सकते हैं अलग अलग दूरबीन जो है, which are already operational in the world. And this is the extremely large telescope, European extremely large telescope. This is the 30-meter telescope. This is the Giant Magellan telescope. ये वो 3 telescopes है जिसके बारे में हम लोग आज बात कर रहे हैं. ये सभी are in construction phase. The telescopes are not yet ready. These 3 are being built. These are ones which are already ready. ये सब टेलीस्कोप्स ऑलरेडी ऑपरेशनल है जो आप देख सकते हैं. यहाँ पे ग्रैंड टेलीस्कोप कनारी आइलैंड्स, ये केक टेलीस्कोप्स है, जेमिनी नॉर्थ एंड साउथ है, ये हॉबली एबली है, दिस इज़ द सॉल्ट टेलीस्कोप जो साउथ अफ्रीका में है. तो ये कई टेलीस्कोप्स ऑलरेडी है और देख सकते हैं आप कि ये बेसिकली 10 मीटर है जो बने अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 1993 में, और अब हम लोग उसको ऑलमोस्ट डबल कर रहे हैं with the 30-meter class telescopes. Okay? अच्छा, तो extremely large telescope का definition अगर हम लोग देखेंगे तो उसका definition है basically a telescope with a mirror greater than 20 meters, right? तो ये जो telescopes है इनको बनाना मुश्किल है, इसीलिए they are made with segmented mirrors, यानी कि pieces of mirrors like a honeycomb structure. We will see that. And therefore, for that, we use something called adaptive optics. We will talk about that. And we can also see how these telescopes, they rival space telescopes. चूँकि ये telescopes बहुत बड़े हैं, वो space telescopes के मुकाबले बेहतर भी हो सकते हैं, depending on किस तरह से उनका इस्तेमाल किया जाए. तो if we actually see, ये बहुत महंगे भी है. Okay, तो obviously इनको बनाना मुश्किल है क्योंकि ये महंगे हैं. तो ये यूरोपियन टेलीस्कोप, द यूरोपियन एक्सट्रीमली लार्ज टेलीस्कोप कॉस्ट $1,500 million or about 1,300 million euros. 30-meter telescope has costed about $1,400 million. Giant Magellan telescope is about 1,000 million, which is $1 billion. And so these are all very expensive telescopes. ये बहुत महंगे telescopes हैं, तो इनको बनाना इस तरह से मुश्किल है. So अब हम लोग we'll start with the first telescope, which is the largest of all, which is the extremely large telescope or the ELT. Okay, तो ये है, this is the extremely large telescope. This is being made in Chile. Okay, ये साउथ अमेरिका में बन रहा है, चिले में बन रहा है. वहाँ एक बड़ा डेजर्ट है. Okay, तो ये सबसे हाईएस्ट ऑप्टिकल टेलीस्कोप एवर बिल्ट है और ये ऑलरेडी इसका कंस्ट्रक्शन बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है. तो ये देख सकते हैं आप, ये है ये सेरो अरवानाजोस, ये है माउंटेन जिस पे ये बन रहा है, ये प्लेटफॉर्म बना हुआ है. ये जो देख रहे हैं आप, ये पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन अभी जारी है. यू कैन सी दैट द कंस्ट्रक्शन इज ऑन एंड इट्स बेसिकली रिफ्लेक्टिंग टेलीस्कोप 39.3 meters in diameter, segmented, वो segmented है, टुकड़ों में है, राइट. इसमें यूज़ होता है अडेप्टिव ऑप्टिक्स. मैं इसके बारे में आपको बताऊंगी, आई विल टेल यू अबाउट इट. and you will see that the light gathering power is greater, 250 times greater than that from Hubble, right? So look at this. अब आम तौर पे जब हम एक तारे को देखते हैं तो तारे का पोजीशन शिफ्ट होता है, ओके, एंड इसी को हम लोग ट्विंकलिंग कहते हैं, राइट? सो जनरली व्हेन वी लुक एट अ स्टार, बिकॉज ऑफ atmospheric condition, what happens is the atmosphere shifts the position of the image of the star, okay, due to which it gets shifted. And when we look at the image, you can see it over here, you see it shifting, and because of the shifting, we think that the star is twinkling, okay. So this is what we call twinkling of the star, when the star position shifts. तो ये shift होता है हमारे atmosphere की वजह से, okay. अब obviously this is a big problem for a telescope, क्योंकि अगर आप टेलीस्कोप से देख रहे हैं तो obviously you're going to have a problem if this image is going to shift like this, right? And therefore, what is done in telescopes is there are two things which is done. One is called adaptive optics and the other one is called active optics. तो adaptive optics का मतलब क्या है? Adaptive optics, it basically knows that the atmosphere is blurring astronomical images, right? It creates distortions, right? So what do we do in the telescope? We have a laser guide star, which creates an artificial star, okay? Now, I already know that it's come from a laser beam, right? So I know what should be the image of the star. But finally, when I look at the star is shaking, right? It looks as though it's shaking. So therefore, what is done is that you already know what is the image you should see, the star. You are seeing the distorted image. So you make changes so that you can correct for that, right? तो आप mirrors में changes करते हैं जिसके वजह से आपका जो image हिल रहा था उसको आप correct करते हैं. ये है adaptive optics. एक और चीज है active optics. Active optics, जब ये जो mirror है ना, ये कई टुकड़ों का बना है. It's made of many segments. Now all these segments are on top of accentuators, these things, okay? So what we do is that with time, the mirror gets distorted, right? Because of weight, because of temperature changes, because of gravity, because of wind, the shape changes, right? And therefore these accentuators, they raise the mirror up and down, adjust it so that the mirror gets formed so that you get a good image. This is what is called active optics. So what is done in big telescopes is we have both these things. We have active optics and we have adaptive optics. So active optics is a slow process. It is basically you are using it to maintain the primary mirror's shape, right? By compensating for the distortion. So this is done at the speed. It is a slow thing. It's done at approximately 1 hertz. Okay, 1 cycle per second is the speed at which you are making these changes, right? But adaptive optics is what is compensating for the atmospheric turbulence. Now, atmospheric turbulence, it actually changes very fast, okay? And therefore, when you want to adjust for atmospheric turbulence, you actually have to do it so fast that the frequency with which you're doing it has to be something like 100 or even 1000 hertz, right? So what happens is in adaptive optics at a very large speed, 100 or 1000 hertz, I need to correct it. So basically that can also be done by the secondary mirror, okay? So the primary mirror with active optics, and you could do this adaptive optics with the secondary mirror. And this is how you get very good resolution on telescopes. तो ये जो ग्राउंड बेस्ड टेलीस्कोप्स का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम हमारा एटमॉस्फेयर है. एटमॉस्फेयर की वजह से जो इमेजेस है वो हिल जाते हैं, ब्लर हो जाते हैं. तो ये टेलीस्कोप्स, चूंकि ये मिरर्स बहुत बड़े साइज के हैं, उनके छोटे छोटे पीसेस पे आपके पास ये होते हैं एक्सेंचुएटर्स. देखिए ये एक्सेंचुएटर्स, एंड ये एक्सेंचुएटर्स एक एक टुकड़े को हिलाते हैं, ऊपर नीचे करते हैं, ताकि उसका जो स्मूथनेस वो इस तरह से एडजस्ट हो जाए ताकि आपको क्लियर इमेज मिल जाए. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाट इज एक्टिव ऑप्टिक्स एंड अडेप्टिव ऑप्टिक्स. एंड ऑल बिग टेलीस्कोप्स, all the telescopes we are talking about today, all have active as well as adaptive optics. Because if you do not have that, then your telescope becomes quite useless, because you build such a big mirror, right? But if your image is not going to be steady, it's not going to be steady, it will look blurry, your whole resolution is lost, right? you have built a big telescope for good resolution, and you will lose out on resolution. इसीलिए आमतौर पे अभी सभी बड़े टेलीस्कोप्स में हमेशा एक्टिव और अडेप्टिव ऑप्टिक्स का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. ओके, सो ELT का जो है, यू कैन हैव अ लुक एट इट. एक तो ये चीज़ है दैट ये जो टेलीस्कोप्स बन रहे हैं ये साइंस फिक्शन के जैसे हैं. मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि किस तरह से. कंस्ट्रक्शन स्टार्टेड इन 2014, ओके, 11 years ago. So you can see that here, if you can see, मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि किस तरह से कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है ये टेलीस्कोप का. This is very high tech, very high technology, and very this thing with which it's happening. I'm sorry. So you can look. This is the site. This is the site on which the telescope is being built. This is with European funding. It's the largest telescope dome in the world because it's 38.5. It is the largest of all these. This thing, 80 meters high. You can see this is the dome. The dome is being built. These are the doors which will open. And here you have this telescope, 38.5 meters in size. Okay, and here you can see that's the telescope. And there are many videos which you can see online. It has giant sliding doors which will open. And here we have the telescope, so you can aim the telescope at what you're going to look at. And you open it during the night, with which you can observe all the things. And you can see that these are engineering marvels. जिस तरह से इनको बनाया जाता है, ये engineering का बहुत बड़ा काम है, क्योंकि these are one of its kind instruments which you're building. There's only one ELT which you're going to build. And it comes with a unique design and with unique problems and issues. I hope you could see this video. Could you see this video? Hello?
No, there was no video. Video was
Oh,
not
sorry.
played.
1 minute. Then I should, I'll 1 minute.
You should stop sharing that and then share that.
Yeah. I'll just share the whole window only. I'll share the whole thing. And I'm sorry, I'll go back to that.
No, don't share the whole window.
Okay, I can go here. I'll go back here and here. So I'll repeat this thing. You can see this is really, now you can see the screen, right? Now you can see it?
Yeah.
So now you can see this is the construction site of the ELT. Like I said, construction started in 2014, 11 years ago. Okay, and this is the building of the dome. You can see these are the sliding doors which open up when the telescope has to be used for observations. This is the frame of the telescope, and you can see that the largest ever. This is the largest of all these three telescopes, 38.5 meters, 0.3, and it opens up like this, and with which you can actually observe, right? So it's an engineering marvel, the way it has been built. And like I said, these are just one of its kind of constructions. So very interesting to see. And there are many online videos you can see, and you'll be able to appreciate the structure if you see it in many of these videos, right? So 1 minute, I'll just, okay. Yeah, I hope you can see my PPT now, right? You can see my PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay. So here, if you see, this is actually showing you the mirror structure. It basically has 5 mirrors. Okay. So I have the primary mirror here, M1. Then I have a secondary mirror here, M2. Then I have a tertiary mirror here, M3. And then I have M4 and M5. So you can see that I can actually show you the path, but I will stop share, and I should just share the whole screen. Just do it like that. Yeah, 1 minute. So, 1 minute. So, yeah, so you can see here, this is an image which is showing you can you see this image? I hope you can. You can see the light path, right? Hello? So light comes in, goes to the primary, then the secondary, then that's M2, now it goes through M3, then it does M4, and then it does M5, and then it exits to this point, and यहाँ पे आप instruments रखते, you keep your instruments over here. So this is the light path using 5 mirrors, M1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So finally, you redirect the light to this side port, and the side port is where you basically keep your instruments. Okay. So I'll go back to my thing, and yeah. So that's the kind of structure which it has, and it will have a lot of first generation instruments. One is an infrared camera, one is a spectrograph called Harmony, Metis is a mid-infrared camera spectrograph, Mosaic is a multi-object spectrograph, and Andes is a ultra-precise spectrograph, right? So there are various kind of instruments. ये सभी इस्तेमाल होंगे अलग अलग चीज़ों के लिए. Some are to look for exoplanets, some are to look for stars and planets, some are to look at galaxies. तो अलग स्केल्स पे आप अलग चीज़ों को देख पाएंगे. ये फर्स्ट जनरेशन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. First generation instruments means the instruments which will come up when the telescope comes up, right? शुरुआत उससे होंगी. But as the telescope gets operational, you will have second generation, third generation instruments, यानी कि बेहतर और अलग instruments बनाए जाएंगे, which will be used for the telescope, right? And all of them can be used from distances. So what do we expect? This is just a simulation of what we expect with ELT. ये देखिए, this is the same region observed with Hubble Space Telescope. This is the same region with James Webb. And now if we look at ELT, so this is a 2.4 meter, 6.5 meter, and a 38.3 meter. Look at this. Look at the difference in the kind of resolution that you're going to get with ELT compared to James Webb as well as Hubble, right? तो इसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरह से हम लोग जो चीज़ों को देख पाएंगे ये टेलीस्कोप के साथ, कितना बेहतर हम लोग देख पाएंगे कंपेयर टू आजकल स्पेस टेलीस्कोप्स में जेम्स वेब सबसे बेहतर है, बट यू कैन सी दैट दिस इज सो मच बेटर देन इवन जेम्स वेब. दैट्स द काइंड ऑफ रेजोल्यूशन वी विल गेट विद दिस टेलीस्कोप. लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टेलीस्कोप. अगले टेलीस्कोप के बारे में बात करेंगे, विच इज द जायंट मैजेलन टेलीस्कोप. अब जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, एक कांच, वन मिरर इज डिफिकल्ट टू मेक, and therefore in the earlier one we had hexagonal these things. In this one what we have, the design is only 7 pieces, 6, so you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Lekin each of these pieces is of 8.4 meters. So these pieces is the largest size single mirror you can make, right? So the largest size single mirror we can make is this size, which is 8.4 meters. So we use 7 such mirrors to make the Giant Magellan Telescope. तो Giant Magellan Telescope का जो अपर्चर है 24.5 meters है, और इसको बनाने के लिए हम लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं 7 छोटे मिरर्स को. Each of them is size 8.4 meters. 8.4 meters is larger than James Webb, right? तो इनका एक एक टुकड़ा जो है जेम्स वेब से बड़ा है. Okay. So each of these things, and इसको बनाने का तरीका भी बहुत ही यूनिक तरीका है, right? In a very unique way, these mirrors are made with very high technology, and I will show you how. And just a minute, I will just show you. We will see it. You see, this is how the mirrors are being made. I hope you can see my browser, right? You can see my browser?
Yeah, we can see your browser, yes.
Great. So now you can see in this, there's a very unique way. This is the Giant Magellan Telescope. This is what it will look like. Okay. So this is how it will open up. I said 7 mirrors, 8.4 meters. And you see these, it will open up the telescope, otherwise it's covered. And it's going to give us a view of the sky, but with lesser pieces. You just have 7 pieces which make up the whole telescope. This is also in Chile. Okay. And what is the unique way in which this telescope mirror is being made is you basically have pieces of glass with which you actually make it. And you can see that it's literally how you would make glass. You can see that this is the glass with which they make it. And you can see over here, this is a big massive oven in which you are actually making this thing, right? So in this massive oven, what you can see is that you have pieces of these glass which are put inside, and you actually put the pieces into molds. Okay, so here is this massive oven in which they actually fill in pieces of the glass. So you see, these are the pieces of the glass which are being put inside. Okay, and these pieces of glass are put inside the oven. I hope you can see, right? So you can see this is the piece of glass which are put inside, and they are put inside this oven. And see, this is where the glass is put inside, and then you literally bake it. Okay, so the pieces are placed inside the oven, and this is to make your 8.4 meter mirror. So you put this in there and you close the oven. Yeah, this is the closing of the oven, and then with this you melt all the glass, and then you make this one single piece. Okay, you see the glass is melting and it will make the whole mirror. Okay, and this is the unique way in which the mirror is being made for the Giant Magellan Telescope. Okay, it's a very unique facility which is in Arizona, in the University of Arizona, with which they are doing it. Now, like I said, all these telescopes have adaptive optics as well as active optics. So does this have, and I will show you the video of this thing. This is again another animation. I will just 1 minute stop sharing. I'm sorry, but I need to go back and forth. I hope you can see this thing. You see, this is again the Giant Magellan Telescope, which I showed you. And you have the telescope over here. These are the 7 pieces. This is the secondary mirror up here. And you can see that, this is the telescope. And these are the things in which each of the mirrors would be placed. You see the central mirror has a hole. The hole is of the size of 2.4 meters, which is the size of the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay, the hole over here is the size of the Hubble Space Telescope. And each of these is 8.4. Together, you get this 28.5. And that's the kind of telescope which is being built, and here you have the secondary mirror, which is 4.5 meters in size. Okay, that's the other mirror, the secondary mirror. And with this, you actually can do it. So to do active adaptive optics, you basically use laser lights with which you create artificial stars. And with that, you can do the correction which you need for the accentuators to give you clear images, right? So ye active adaptive optics is used to actually create it, right? So I will not show you more videos because there are plenty of them which you can see. I hope you can see my presentation again. So you'll be able to see this on the net. And the Giant Magellan Telescope, like I said, ये सभी टेलीस्कोप्स बहुत महंगे हैं, इसलिए उसको बनाने के लिए कई लोग साथ मिलजुल के बनाते हैं. तो ELT तो यूरोपियन है, तो EU के पूरे कंट्रीज है, लेकिन this telescope has a consortium of various countries. It is United States, it's Chile, Australia, Brazil, Israel, South Korea, Taiwan. All these places, all these are partners and they are contributing. So the Giant Magellan Telescope is not being made by government money. It is being made by private funding from these different universities and institutes, right? तो ये अलग अलग universities और institutes contribute कर रहे हैं पैसे to make the Giant Magellan Telescope. Okay. अब इसके construction milestones, इसका construction started in 2005, यानी कि 20 साल पहले. All the 7 mirrors have to be made, okay? And all the 7 mirrors are ready, okay? The first mirror was polished in 2012 and the 7th was done in 2023. It was cast, right? तो पूरे जो 7 mirrors है इसके पूरे ready है, बन गए हैं. ये जो site है, the site also has to be prepared. Like you saw on the mountain, you have to create a area to build it, etc. So the first blast of the mountain has been done. It has already groundbreaking. The construction has started. And the site infrastructure is being built. There is fabrication happening. Enclosure, the telescope enclosure, which is a 65-meter tall enclosure. It's fastest final design review, ready for construction. And we are already in the advanced phase. This is moving on very well. So this telescope also should be ready. And it is expected by 2030, it should be ready to be used. So ये है site. This is the site at which the telescope is being made. This is also being made in Chile. Okay. तो ये दोनों जो telescopes है, ELT and GMT, both are being happening in Chile, which is southern hemisphere. Okay. ये दोनों southern hemisphere में बन रहे हैं और इसीलिए तो this is the telescope and this thing we go into that. Okay. इसके कई instruments है. सभी में generally क्या होता है, you have imagers and you have spectrographs, okay, and that's what it has different kind of imagers and spectrographs.
What happened? What happened?
Her mic is on, but she's, I think, cut off. I don't know.
Okay. I'll just, did I exit for some time or what happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
You
cannot be
are
hard for a
screen. Yeah.
few
Now
seconds.
we are able to
Okay,
see your
okay,
screen. Yeah.
fine. So in short, here you can see what we expect from the Giant Magellan Telescope. See, this is considered the best images we get just now, which is James Webb. Ye hai James Webb, and this is what we're expecting from Giant Magellan. You can see it's a very big jump in the kind of data we are getting. Now, if you remember, ये दोनों telescopes मैंने आपको बताया, ELT और GMT, they are both being constructed in Chile, okay, which is in the southern hemisphere. And this why now comes in the third telescope, which is the TMT, the 30-meter telescope. 30-meter telescope is special for us in India क्योंकि TMT में India is a 10% contributor for 30-meter telescope. We do not have official participation in ELT as GMT, but TMT may we are partners. Okay, so therefore TMT is special for us. And TMT is special because those two telescopes are being made in the southern hemisphere, but TMT is being planned to be made in Hawaii, which is the northern hemisphere, right? और इसीलिए TMT was decided कि चिली में नहीं बनाना है. We want to make it in northern hemisphere because in northern hemisphere you will get to see other parts of the sky which ELT and GMT will not be able to see, right? And hence it was essential to make this in this thing. अब ये 30-मीटर टेलीस्कोप है, इसीलिए ये भी मिरर सेगमेंटेड मिरर है, टुकड़ों से बनाया गया है हनीकॉम स्ट्रक्चर में. ये हनीकॉम स्ट्रक्चर है विथ 492 सेगमेंट्स. एक सेगमेंट का साइज जो है 1.4 मीटर्स है. ओके, एंड अगर हम लोग लाइट पाथ देखेंगे, आई शो यू द लाइट पाथ. लेट मी स्टॉप दिस शेयर and I will again share it, and I hope you can see my thing. You can see the light path of the 30-meter telescope. Light will come in, and this is M2 and M3. So the telescope basically has only 3 mirrors, M1, M2, and M3. So we can start it again from the beginning. Light comes in, it comes on M1, gets reflected, goes to M2, then gets reflected by M3, and then goes to side port, right? तो ये साइड पोर्ट्स में बेसिकली आपके इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स रहते हैं. तो लाइट यहाँ से आता है M1, M2, M3 and then it goes to the side port and you can turn this mirror. So if I want to use this instrument, I can turn the mirror, use this instrument. If I want to use this instrument, I can turn this mirror and use this instrument. I hope आप समझ रहे हैं कि ये जो मिरर है ना, ये मूव होता है. ये जो M3 है, ये मूव कर सकते हैं ताकि यहाँ पोर्ट्स में जो भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट है आप लाइट को उस तरफ से डाइवर्ट कर सकते हैं. बिकॉज दीज स्पेक्ट्रोग्राफ्स आर वेरी मैसिव ह्यूज इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. ओके, they would be the size of a room, so you cannot move these instruments. So we move the mirror and the mirror will redirect the light to whichever direction you want for whichever instrument you want. ठीक है, तो इस तरह से लाइट को डाइवर्ट किया जाता है towards whichever instrument we want to observe with. Okay, so I hope you can see my PPT now, right? Yeah, you can see my PPT.
Yes, we can see, we can see.
Thanks. So with TMT, these are the expected results. You can see, for example, this is Virgo galaxies. This is a region of the sky जहाँ पे there's a spiral galaxy in the Virgo cluster, and ये आपको, you can see this is the kind of observations we expect from this part of the sky using TMT. Okay, we will get such good images using TMT. So 30-meter telescope, like I told you, is special for us Indians because we are contributors in that. So we are basically, in 2014, okay, 11 साल पहले, the Indian government approved India's participation at a cost of 1,300 crores, okay, in September 2014. And ये funding DST, Department of Science and Technology ने दिया. इसके अलावा the countries in this is basically USA, Canada, China and Japan. They are the other contributing countries in TMT. And India जो 1,300 crores is what we are putting into TMT, of which 70% is in kind and 30% is in cash. Okay. So the main TMT center is in Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore, where they have built this building. This building is built in Hoskote. Hoskote is near Bangalore. Okay. ये वही जगह है जहाँ से we operate the Himalayan Chandra telescope. HCT जो telescope है, it gets operated from this same place which is called CREST, which is in Hoskote. And in CREST itself, they've built a building for TMT optics fabrication, which was inaugurated in 2020. And this is the place where we are actually building, making mirrors, polishing of mirrors, making accentuators. So 70% of our 1,300 crores will be given in the form of material which we'll make. And this makes it very beneficial. It is a win-win situation क्योंकि इंडिया में हमारे पास ये engineering skills to make big telescopes nahi tha, right? Because we are contributing in this telescope, we are learning how to make mirrors, how to make various parts of the telescope, and इसीलिए ये सब हमारे काम में आएगा ताकि हम लोग आगे भी अपना बना सके, right? So इसीलिए this is a very important part of our contribution, that we are contributing in kind, in the sense we are building these, doing polishing of mirrors, accentuators, as well as we're doing the whole software, the data access software and all will also be done by India for the TMT. Okay. And there are various instruments which are being made, the WFOS instrument, the IRIS spectrometer and IRMS. These are all being built for the TMT. Okay. So this is all very good. Okay. ये सब बहुत अच्छा है. TMT will look at the northern hemisphere and we have money. India is contributing. We are actually building. We are doing everything. But up there is a problem in this story. The problem is this, that when the first construction started of the TMT, there were protests. Okay. So this is Mauna Kea. ये है Mauna Kea. हवाई में एक पहाड़ है. Okay. जिसपे already 13 telescopes, there are already 13 operational telescopes on this peak. Okay. Now the problem is this peak is a holy place for the locals, for the Hawaiian locals. Okay. तो ये for example हमारे लिए ऐसे कोई है कि अगर हमारे पास कोई होली जगह है जहाँ पे लोग तोड़ के टेलीस्कोप्स बनाना चाह रहे हैं, right? So this is something like that for the people over there, and therefore they've been protesting on the construction of the TMT, okay? And they are not allowing the construction. So there's a lot of problem about that, and since then, almost the past 10 years, there have been constant problems as to where to build the TMT because Hawaii में the locals are protesting. Okay, लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि उनको convince कर पाए ताकि हम लोग वहाँ बना सके, लेकिन अभी वो हुआ नहीं है. ऑप्शन दूसरा है to do it in Canary Islands in Spain. Okay, तो स्पेन में बनाने के लिए परमिशन भी मिल गया है, and Spanish government will also offer some contribution. They will contribute some money also to the construction of the telescope. Only problem is that La Palma is not at such a height as Mauna Kea. So it will be more than 1,000 feet lower, right? So the site is not so good. उतनी अच्छी जगह नहीं है as Hawaii. And ये सभी बड़े telescopes बनाने के लिए most important factor है आपका site, the location. Because if the location is bad, even if the telescope is great, you will not be able to take advantage of it. So the other option is Canary Islands. And वहाँ भी there are some problems. So people are actually considering even making it in California, or even India had proposed कि हमारे पास लद्दाख में already telescope है. So we had also proposed that why not make the TMT in Ladakh, right? But in order of preference, जो preference है उन लोग का, obviously पहला है Hawaii, second है La Palma, and फिर शायद आता है कैलिफोर्निया और लद्दाख. So I don't know whether it would happen in Ladakh, though we had proposed it. The other very big telescope, which is not an extremely large telescope, but which I wanted to mention, is the Vera Rubin telescope, which is an 8.4 meter telescope, which is coming up. It's also called the LSST telescope. This is also almost ready, and it's already operational since this year. This is also a large telescope, which is very important. What's important about LSST is that it is basically looking at the sky, scanning the sky every 3 nights, right? So let us now compare, okay? Let us compare all these 3 extremely large telescopes. So ये TMT जो है, one advantage it has is northern hemisphere. The other advantage it has is that in near ultraviolet, right, it's going to observe very well because it has a silver coating with near UV enhancement. So it can actually let us observe very well in ultraviolet. In the case of GMT, Giant Magellan Telescope, this is good, but it does not, it gives you good blue performance, but doesn't observe well in infrared. The ELT, which is good, is such that it would be better in lower at shorter wavelengths. It's not so good at shorter wavelengths, that is ultraviolet. And therefore, what is actually going to happen is that all these 3 instruments, right, वैसे तो आपको सिमिलर दिखते हैं, लेकिन सभी के थोड़े थोड़े अलग खासियत है. तो कुछ चीज़ें रहेंगे which will work out better with TMT or GMT or ELT, depending upon the kind of object we are looking at. For example, near infrared में TMT, the active optics will work very well in the case of near infrared, but in as well as in mid infrared also, TMT sight is very, very good. So in short, all these 3 are very, very important. They will also be used when complementary with Vera Rubin telescope, which I showed you. This is already operational this year, this telescope. And this will give us the advantage of Vera Rubin is it looks at the sky. Every 3 nights, it will look at the same object. So all transients, जो भी objects है जिसका brightness change हो रहा है, it will detect it. So for example, if there are supernovae and various other objects, even asteroids, all of them can be caught very well with Vera Rubin. Okay. Now, we don't have too much time, but ये बड़े telescopes बनाने के science goals क्या है? एक तो है to look at दूर देखना है, right? एक बहुत important चीज़ है that light takes finite time to travel. Okay? तो for example, जब हम लोग सूरज को देखते हैं, तो हम लोग सूरज के लाइट को हमारे तक पहुंचने के लिए 8 मिनट लगते हैं, राइट? इस वजह से हम सूरज को देखते हैं 8 मिनट के बाद. उसी तरह से अगर हम कोई और दूर ऑब्जेक्ट को देखेंगे जहां से फॉर एग्जांपल मिलियन ईयर्स लगते हैं वहां की लाइट को हमारे तक पहुंचने के लिए, यानी कि मैं वो चीज को देख सकती हूँ जैसे वो था मिलियन ईयर्स के पहले, राइट? तो जितना हम लोग दूर देखेंगे उतना हम लोग यूनिवर्स को अर्ली स्टेजेस में देख पाएंगे. So the advantage because of the finite speed of light is that the further you look, the earlier in universe you can observe. So by looking further, you can see the first stars and galaxies. Okay. Also, चूंकि आपका टेलीस्कोप इतना बड़ा है, you can detect exoplanets. आप exoplanets को detect करेंगे, उनके atmospheres की spectroscopy करके you can study the atmosphere, see whether it has water or it has oxygen or what is the composition of the atmosphere of exoplanets. You can look at black holes, galaxy evolution, dark matter, dark energy, various things with these things. Okay. And therefore, very soon, ये सभी telescopes within the next 5-10 years, ये सभी telescopes operational हो जाएंगे. Okay. All these telescopes will be operational in the next 5-10 years. And it's going to give us a new era of discovery from exoplanets to black holes to early stars, early galaxies, and various things like that. And that is what we are very excited about, that there's going to be a lot of new discoveries which will come. So like I told you, just to wrap up, there's extremely large telescope, 39.5, 30-meter telescope, 30, and Giant Magellan, 28.4. We also have the VLT, the SALT. These are other operational telescopes which have been earlier already installed. And we do hope that all these will come in operational very soon. These 3 that we spoke about, these ones are already operational. Okay. And they will study various science cases. I'm not going to go into details of these science cases, but it will range from asteroids solar system objects to stars, exoplanets, to galaxies, black holes, quasars, supernovae, everything, right? Everything will be observed by these telescopes. I just want to wind up with a little piece of good news, which you may have heard about, that the recent budget allocation for India. How is India preparing for these big telescopes? So in India, we always thought that the largest telescope we have is 3.6 meters, which is in Devasthal. And then if we go on to 30 meters, how will we move from 3.6 to 30 meters, right? तो ज़रूरी है कि हमें एक्सपीरियंस रहे कुछ उससे छोटे टेलीस्कोप के साथ का. So the recent budget allocation, we have got, the allocation has been got for the NLOT, which is the National Large Optical Telescope, which is supposed to be a 13.7 meter telescope made up of 90 hexagonal segments, as well as the National Large Solar Telescope, which is a 2 meter telescope. The Himalayan Chandra telescope will be upgraded. So this one is the NLOT, which is 13.7 meters. This one is the solar telescope, a 2 meter solar telescope. And hopefully the HCT will also get upgraded. And then there would be some other state-of-art planetarium which will come up in Amravati. And therefore, we do have a bright future. I'll conclude with this, that the ELT, TMT, GMT, they are going to redefine observational astronomy, as well as coupled with Vera Rubin, because Vera Rubin will give us transients. Vera Rubin से हमसे constantly मिलेंगे data about objects जो interesting है. For example, जो transients है, supernovae है, asteroids है, अलग-अलग. And hopefully इससे एक पूरा नया era आएगा in observational astronomy. And that is what we're expecting. So I will stop with this and I'd be happy to take questions. Yeah.
Excellent. And thank you. It was a really very beautiful lecture.
Thank you.
And would you mind sharing that slide where you were showing what are the major objective of this new telescopes which are coming up? Once again, can you just share that slide?
You want the science cases one?
Yeah, the new telescopes, like for example, the exoplanets, dark matter, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. 1 minute. I'll just.
Yes.
1 minute, huh? I'll just. Okay. Sorry.
तो एक चीज ये लेक्चर में हम समझ सकता है दैट मीन बहुत चीज बात किया है बट एक चीज इसमें हम समझ सकता है दैट ये नया टेलीस्कोप एक नया दृष्टि नया नजर हमको देंगे वो एक इसमें इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है मतलब पहली बार गैलीलियो यूज करने के समय हमको नया चीज दिखाने के लिए मिला लाइक चांद में माउंटेन पहाड़ देखने के लिए मिला इसी तरह जुपिटर को सैटेलाइट्स को देखने के लिए मिला नया स्टार्स हमको देखने के लिए मिला इस तरह से बहुत चीज गैलीलियो के टाइम में ही हमको नया चीज दिखने के लिए मिला इससे हमको ब्रह्मांड के ऊपर एक नया दृष्टिकोण पैदा करने के लिए वो बेसिस बना इसी तरह इधर ये स्लाइड में डॉक्टर प्रियाजन ने हमको दिखा रहा है दैट अगेन नया चीज अर्लियर टेलीस्कोप से हमको नहीं मिलेगा उसे हमको इस तरह से चीज के ऊपर दृष्टि या डेटा नहीं मिलेगा उसके बारे में ये नया टेलीस्कोप हमको दिखाएगा दैट पहला स्टार्स कब फॉर्म हुआ नहीं तो दूर स्टार्स के चारों ओर घूमते रहे ग्रह के बारे में एक्सोप्लैनेट ब्लैक होल्स डार्क मैटर इस तरह से चीज सो यही मैं ये लेक्चर के पहले मैं सूचित किया दैट ये बड़ा टेलीस्कोप एक रेवोल्यूशन क्रिएट कर रहा है ये ब्रह्मांड के ऊपर एक नया दृष्टि इस बेसिस में एमर्ज होगा फ्यूचर में ये रेवोल्यूशन होने के समय हम ये देख रहा है करके मैं बोला थैंक यू डॉक्टर हासन आई वुड नाउ maybe allow some time for participants to ask some question. Is that okay?
Yeah,
People can maybe raise their hands. Is
Yeah,
that fine?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Now maybe you can stop sharing.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, Vivek.
Yeah, already I have put a question in chat box
Yeah.
that in astrobiology and astrochemistry study, how these telescope can help. This is one question, and another is that how in determining dark matter and dark energy these telescopes can help.
Okay. So first about astrobiology and astrochemistry. So essentially that would be related to exoplanets, right? So it's about characterizing the atmospheres of exoplanets. So what will happen is all these telescopes have excellent spectrographs. The best thing of having a big telescope is to have a spectrograph on it. And what they will do is, like even James Webb has done, is that it can actually look at the atmospheres of exoplanets and give you their chemical composition, right? But obviously, since this is much larger than James Webb, it's going to do it at a much look at much fainter sources and with much better resolution than James Webb. So in astrobiology and astrochemistry, it will basically help you to characterize the atmospheres of various exoplanets, right? To check it out. And the other question you had was with dark matter and dark energy. So again, with dark matter and dark energy, is that, for example, if you're looking for dark matter, right? Typically, dark matter characterization is done by the rotation curve of galaxies, right? So that means you're basically looking at the velocities of stars in the outer parts of galaxies. Ideally, if there was no dark matter, it should be a Keplerian fall. It should be 1 by r squared. That means as the star is on the outer parts of the galaxy, the velocity should fall. But what happens is, because dark matter is in the outer regions, you will have a rise. So you basically want to measure velocities of stars or objects in the outer regions of galaxies. And the way to measure that is again through spectroscopy, because you'll get the Doppler effect. You look at some spectral lines, you'll get the Doppler effect. You can calculate the velocity based on the Doppler effect. And once you get the velocities, you can use the velocities of those objects to estimate the amount of dark matter that will enable a star to have a certain velocity in the outer regions of that galaxy, right? Because you are going to measure that thing. So that will give you your dark matter. Now for dark energy, what happens, the standard way of doing dark energy is that, what happens through the Hubble's expansion of the universe, we know as that as the distance of the object is larger from us, the velocity increases with Hubble constant, right? But we know that now the expansion is happening with an acceleration. So how do we find out the acceleration? We do basically use that do that using supernovae. So we look at supernovae, which are in external galaxies, because even supernovae in very far away galaxies are going to be very bright, because supernovae are bright. So ideally speaking, Vera Rubin will be able to identify the supernovae, because it's looking for transients all over the sky. Every 3 days, it's going to revisit every object to look for a supernovae. Once it identifies the supernova, then these ELTs will use their spectroscopy to actually again measure the velocity of those supernovae. So supernovae are very good because you can get the velocity from spectroscopy, and you can get the distance, because a supernova is a standard candle. You know what's the standard brightness of a supernova. So if you know the apparent brightness of something, you can calculate the distance. So once you calculate the distance and you calculate the velocity, you can calculate the velocity of acceleration. Now the acceleration is being caused by dark energy, which is negative gravity. So once you measure that, you can then estimate the dark energy, which is the cause of the acceleration for that supernova. So that's the way briefly you'd be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay,
I
thank
hope
you.
that answers your question. Yeah.
Gaurav, you can unmute and ask a question.
One second.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, Gautam, ask your question.
1 second, sir. It's not loading. Can I want the PDF of the notes? You share the
Okay,
screen,
that I
right, ma'am?
can give you. No problem. Don't worry.
Yeah, ma'am.
You want the
That only I want.
presentation? Do you
Yeah,
want the
yes, ma'am.
presentation?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay, that can be shared. Not a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
But do you have any doubt, any question?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Dr. Vivek Montague?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. See, at a simple level,
Yeah.
the planets we observe as disks through a normal telescope, but with the amateur telescopes, we cannot observe the stars in their extension because we don't have enough resolution.
Yeah. Mm.
That is why the stars twinkle, but the planets do not twinkle, and that's how we distinguish between planets and the stars.
Yeah.
Now, with these very high resolution telescopes,
Yeah.
can we actually observe the stars in their extension? Or because galaxies are big, okay? The galaxies in the extension we can observe. But what about the stars themselves? Can we observe stars in extension with these
You basically mean resolved stars.
resolved stars? Yeah, can we
Yeah.
observe them as
Yeah,
disks?
so actually, for example, with Betelgeuse, right, when they studied the companion recently for Betelgeuse, it was resolved with Gemini North, right, with an 8-meter telescope. So you could resolve it. So there are some problems about doing it, depending on how bright is the star. And because that was one of the problems for Betelgeuse, that because it's a super bright star, it's, difficult to, you can't overexpose it. So in principle, but this would still be for the nearby stars. You won't be able to resolve every star like that. So if you want to look at the outer envelopes, for example, of Betelgeuse, for example, Betelgeuse will be possible because it's big and it's relatively close by. Other stars, it depends. Not all of them, but some of them, yes. Some of them would be possible. It would be possible in principle.
Yeah, Mr. Tulika De, you can unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Yeah. So, since we all know that AI is into the picture in terms of data processing and all, so
Yeah.
what do you think? So, like, will AI integration will be changing the data processing from the telescopes as compared to the like current times?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the sense, Vera Rubin telescope, it's going to give you petabytes of data every night. Like I told you, it's going to scan the sky every 3 nights, right? So all the Vera Rubin data is going to go through AI channels because otherwise nobody is going to be able to use all the data to actually look for we basically are using it to look for transients, right? That is bright objects. For example, you want to look for a supernova or an asteroid which could be hitting the earth, for example, right? So you want to respond fast, right? So for example, with Vera Rubin, all the data will have to go through a pipeline which is going to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to categorize all the objects, because then with those categories they will create what are called alerts, right? And there'll be thousands of alerts every night, even supernova alerts, which then smaller telescopes can then follow up, right? So for Vera Rubin, 100% AI/ML has to be used. And even for the other big telescopes, yes. Even in normal data processing in astronomy now, almost in every branch we use AI and ML. It has to be used because the problem is that the kind of data we have is very large, and it is in principle not possible to manually actually sift through the data. So yes, we are using a lot of AI ML in astro data analysis. Yes, we are.
So there is another question. What are the citizen science project related to various telescopes?
Okay, so specifically with transients, the Zwicky transient factory, most of the transient data is being fed into many citizen science projects. For example, there is one called Astrometrica, which looks for asteroids, right? It's a very popular citizen science project. So what it does is the same part of the sky, it gives you like 4 images, and you've got to look for moving objects, which could be a nearby asteroid, for example. And So with most of these, with transient these things, there's a lot being done. Almost all these telescopes, the amount of data we are getting is so large that a lot of them are being, even Euclid, for example, it's being used for the galaxy data. So there are lots of citizen science projects which are being done with this. Specifically for the ELTs, I don't know of the ones which have been designed because they're still being in the construction phase, but most other telescopes, a lot of data is available in citizen science projects, which it can be used for looking for supernovae or looking for exoplanets or asteroids or even stars with Gaia data. There are many. That would take another talk on all the citizen science projects with different telescopes, but there is a good number of them. Yes.
So next is Mr. Karthikey Dixit. Please unmute and then ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so ma'am, my question is slightly technical. I'm interested in knowing how does the optical interferometry works instead of
Okay.
the radio ones. Can you shed some light over
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, sure. So interferometry, if you see, it is a technique which was basically used in the radio. All radio telescopes, for example, the GMRT, right, which we have in India, the GMRT, the VLA. What happens is you use data from two telescopes shifted by a certain baseline. Okay. So what happens is that if you have two telescopes separated by a certain baseline, and you take the interferometer, you look at the data for both the telescopes, and you create an interference pattern from both the telescopes, right? You can effectively make it behave as though it is a larger telescope. It is giving you but much better resolution data, where the size of the telescope gets defined by the baseline. That is the separation of the two telescopes. Okay. Now, when this is done, the problem is it has to be done with very, very high accuracy, which has to be of the order of the wavelength. So doing it in radio was relatively easier because in radio you're looking at wavelengths which are in centimeters or in meters, right? So that kind of accuracy was easy to do in radio. But then the first time it was done with Keck, with the Keck telescopes in 1996, it was done the first time with optical wavelengths, right? So basically Keck does it, two 10-meter telescopes with a certain separation. They give you an excellent resolution because you're doing interferometry in optical bands, not in radio bands, but in optical bands. And then from the interference pattern, you'll get your fringes and all that, and you work backwards to actually get very high resolution images. So interferometry instead, the earlier question also what was asked about is about looking at, for example, stellar surfaces. If you want to look at a surface of a star, the first time it was done using interferometry, optical interferometry, because it gives you excellent resolution. So that is a very unique technique. Like I said, it has been very well done in radio, but now we are still doing it in optical, and it's a little more tricky doing it in optical, but it is a very effective way of improving your resolution. Basically, because you're increasing your diameter size. Instead of making a 30-meter telescope, you make two 8-meter telescopes separated by 50 meters, and you'll get the resolution of a 50-meter telescope. That's the advantage. Right?
Yeah, Mr. Nitin, you can now unmute and ask your question.
Yeah.
This should be, I suppose, the last question. We are
Yeah.
already about 8:30. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for Priya Hassan with a very good presentation.
Thank you.
And as a student, I attended as a student, and I have a very difficult to understand what the black hole is. I have read little bit, but not very good on that. I just want to ask how this telescope, which is going from very primitive to very TMT and 30 meters and whatever you said,
Yeah.
will help in study the black hole, because black hole is something which is I'm curious about it.
Yeah. So what happens is a black hole, like you see, it is black. You don't see light coming from it, but we look at the neighborhood of a black hole, right? For example, a few years back, the Nobel Prize was given to a group who was looking at stars at the center of near the center of our Milky Way, right? So we don't look at the black hole, but those stars' motions are affected by the black hole sitting in the center of the Milky Way. So what they did is they observed those stars, measured their velocities, and used that to derive the mass of the black hole in the center of our galaxy. Okay. So what happens is, to look at black holes, we use indirect methods. We can't see the black hole, especially in optical. We don't not looking at the black hole. We are looking at the neighborhood of the black hole, and you look at objects, and if they have these crazy velocities, like the velocities of objects which are near the center of our, near the center of our Milky Way. So if you actually see those stars near the center, they have crazy velocities. Their velocities are something like, I'm just Googling it and seeing it. There's an S2 star which has a velocity of 7,600 kilometers per second, okay, which is like 3% the speed of light. So if you are actually observing an object moving with such a velocity, it cannot happen. You have to have something like a black hole which will make it move in that kind of a velocity, right? So what we do is with these, and if you want to measure velocities, you need spectroscopy, which you can have on a big telescope like this. So in principle, with these telescopes, you're going to indirectly observe black holes by observing objects. Like, for example, I said the stars in the center of our galaxy also. You can see them, observe them, measure their velocities to actually calculate the size of our black hole in the Milky Way. And now with this, it can be done for stars in other galaxies, in neighboring galaxies, because our galaxy is close by, but with the big telescope, we'll be able to see it in nearby galaxies or other galaxies. So
Thank you very much. Just last one. Is this telescope which has been built massive, will be accessible to the normal citizens as a tourist?
So actually all telescopes in principle, obviously they are very sensitive things, but you probably, I think, they all have their open days and their science days when you can go there and you can see. So you can't just walk in any time, I'm sure, but I'm sure they will have their open days, and there will be days when one can go there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Priya Hasan. This was a very wonderful lecture, and also we have had a very good discussion followed by the talk. We are kind of in the last segment. I mean, I would request Asha ji and Arnaba to make final comments. Anybody else? Arnaba?
Yes, TVP, very excellent presentation by Priya, as you told, and the discussion part also very nice, and he dealt with the questions also very nicely. Thank you very much, Priya, and thank you, TVP, for nicely chairing the session. Thank you all, the participants.
Yeah.
Our real competition will close today by 11:59. So all who are interested, we request them to participate in the astronomy reels competition on Enchanting Sky, and up to 11:59 is the scheduled time. So we hope by this time many more participants will submit their reels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Asha ji, are you there? Okay, I think we will wind up. So thanks everyone for the participation. So I'm stopping.